This is a podcast by the News Minute, and you are listening to South Central.
Hello and welcome to South Central, a TNM podcast where we put the South at the center. I am Dhanya Rajendran, your host. Remember, South Central is a show that drops every Friday. First, we go through the headlines mainly from the 5 southern states. Then we discuss 2 topics in depth. No shouting and screaming. It's a peaceful podcast. Do share the links from Apple, from Spotify and YouTube to your friends. Make them listen to South Central and make it a habit. In this week, we look at the question, will DK Shivakumar replace Siddaramaiah? And when that happens, how will it change Karnataka's politics? In the second debate, we look at the hypocrisy of the RSS asking for a change in the preamble of the constitution and remove the words socialist and secular. Along with me in the studio is co-host Pooja Prasanna, who's back from Kiradi.
How much did you miss me last week, Dhanya? It's okay, you can say.
Yes.
Say immensely you missed it.
Yes, immensely, Pooja. And joining us from Kerala is co-host Leena Reghunath. Leena?
Hi, Dhanya. And yes, Pooja, I missed you too.
Thanks,
immensely.
Leena. Somebody admits it openly.
Okay, the guest for the first topic is Professor Chandan Gowda, a political commentator and Dean of the School of Liberal Arts of Vidyashilp University. Till last month, he was with the Institute for Social and Economic Change in Bengaluru. He is also taught at the Azim Premji University and the National Law School of India. Welcome to the show, Professor Chandan Gowda.
Thank you.
Okay, so to those watching, remember you can write to us at southcentral@thenewsminute.com. Every week we read out a few of the letters. We reply to most of the letters that come to us. Thank you to everyone for watching Pooja's episode from Kiradi on the archaeological findings at Kiradi. As we said last week, the entire trip was actually sponsored by a subscriber of the News Minute and News Laundry. We are thankful to everyone who watched it, shared it, subscribed to us, and even paid on that funds for LME. How has the reception been?
Overwhelming. Of course, the numbers speak for themselves, but apart from that, the kind of love we got in the comments is quite something. It was I think it was the toughest LME to shoot because we were on the ground. But now I'm very inspired to go on the ground more often.
You were in the sari. I actually did not think you were going to wear the
Tell
sari.
you deliberately.
Yeah, I mean, in that heat in Madurai. So thank you to everyone. Please go watch that Let Me Explain. In fact, we would like to do episodes of Let Me Explain on the ground. So if you have any ideas too as what Pooja can cover, then write to us once again, southcentral@thenewsminute.com. And on your screen is a QR code to become a subscriber of the News Minute and News Laundry. This month, during the last week of this month, we will have an editorial meeting wherein all of us, me, Pooja, Sudeepto, Shabir and everybody who works in News Minute will interact with our subscribers. You can tell us what stories you want us to cover, but it's a proper editorial meeting. So come with story ideas, come with how you want us to treat them and talk to us. So become a subscriber and come for the editorial meeting at the end of this month. Okay, so we will now go to the headlines, Pooja.
I must say that very bleak, very depressing all our headlines are. It just reflects how bad the world is. We start with the video of Sivaganga custodial violence, which surfaced just a few hours after the Madras High Court pulled up the Tamil Nadu government. The video is of 27-year-old Ajit Kumar being beaten up, and he was a temple guard. He died on the 29th of June. He collapsed after an alleged assault by the police in Tamil Nadu. I don't know if people
I think we need not use the word allege here at all, considering the Tamil Nadu government itself has said in court that this was a case of custodial torture. There was no way that they could camouflage it or somehow try to say it wasn't. There was enough evidence. There were eyewitnesses, people who could not be bogged down. In fact, if you read the judgment of the Madras High Court, it's quite shocking the kind of things which were said in court, that there was an offer of money made from local DMK people. All this has to come to court later, that there was intimidation. There was also calls which were made to the police by somebody in Chennai. Basically, it was a case of alleged theft of a gold chain. So somebody made a call, which is the reason why the special team of the police got involved in the entire thing. So the judgment of the Madras High Court actually lists whatever has been taken up in court. The Chief Minister, of course, has stepped in very quickly, not trying to, say that police are not responsible. They've given a job, they've given money. But I think the larger question the Tamil Nadu police have to look at is, Why is this happening again and again?
24th case since DMK has taken over in 2021.
Yeah, the numbers have been pretty dismal for Tamil Nadu for years together. In fact, we have been doing a series on police excess. Our next story is on how in Tamil Nadu there is a culture of intimidation. After somebody dies of custodial torture, there is then a culture of intimidation and of giving bribes to ensure that families do not go register complaints.
Yeah. NWMI Hyderabad condemns insensitive media coverage of journalist Svecha's death. Of course, the letter speaks about the sensationalization of the death of their colleague. It was dismal to watch it. It's very disturbing that a young minor girl, Svecha's daughter, was interviewed. Some very insensitive questions were asked about Svecha's personal life. We don't want to repeat those questions and give it more, amplify it more. But Dhanya, you've been following this. You knew Svecha too.
Yes, I did know her. In fact, it's been very, very unfortunate, really shocking what happened to Shwecha. But we've also got to look at the media coverage. Leena, you've read the letter from NWMI, right?
Yes, yes. I must really congratulate NWMI for coming out so strong and issuing a letter and calling a press conference to highlight this. But I think dragging minors into incidents like this, sensationalizing episodes like this we have ourselves in these episodes brought up these issues many times over. And it's sad that this keeps happening. And yes, the points in the letter that, how defamatory the things aired were, and how torturous it was to the child or minor to be put to these many questions in such a tragic circumstance is quite distressing, to say the least.
No, Telugu media, especially a few of the TV channels, were utterly careless and irresponsible in their coverage. Now, for those who are not understanding, Shwecha was in a relationship. This is something her father came and told the media immediately after her death, saying that she had issues with her partner and that she had just broken up from that relationship. The next day, she had died by suicide. Now, even after the father saying that, they were running for at least 3-4 days, mysterious death of Shwecha, and they were asking this child as to, what did that man say? How did he react? When did he come? All kinds of things. Absolutely no respect to somebody who has died, and somebody from your own community, and a Dalit journalist, which is of course a rarity in Telangana, a Dalit woman journalist.
Husband and mother-in-law arrested in suspected dowry death. This is the second in a week in Tamil Nadu. 25-year-old Logeshwari died because of alleged dowry abuse. Tamil Nadu police arrested a husband and his mother on the 1st of July. Now, this case comes just a few days after another one from Tamil Nadu, this one from Tirupur, where there are multiple audio clippings, and we just were listening. It's really heart-wrenching. And, just before she killed herself, this young 27-year-old woman has said that she cannot bear the torture that is being given by the husband. These are voice notes to her parents. It really calls for a more closer look at dowry harassment. It is illegal. It's been illegal for decades now, but it still does continue.
But I want to just, Professor Chandan Gowda, you can come in at any of these topics if you want. I just want to add one point. This young woman who died, Dhanya, she had sent 7 or 8 voice notes to her father before her death, heart-wrenching voice notes where she's saying that she just cannot continue. But one thing struck me. She says that I have been in a relationship with this man, so if not this, then nothing more. And this woman's father also gave an interview to Tamil channel where he says that people may think that the idea of remarriage is good, but I am proud that my daughter believe that it is one man for one life. This is something that I brought up in a previous South Central, that there was another case which I was reporting on where the father had a different take, that why should my daughter believe it's one man, one life, right? For an entire life. So I thought that too was very disturbing. See, it is not just the husband's family who are responsible in multiple ways for driving somebody to death. I think families of young women should also now look back at what is their responsibility. They believe in telling their daughters to just stay back in marriages, and also this sort of thought that, okay, you're married once, that's for a lifetime, you've had sex with a man, that's for a lifetime. That's the kind of conversations which are still happening.
And there isn't a safe space for the woman to come back if she wants support from her family. And of course,
I think what we need, sorry, I was trying to say that what we need is more reports of how many families walk out of marriages once they know and, or object to a marriage or a wedding where a dowry demand has been made. I think that needs to get more coverage, that this is normal, that you can stop a marriage or a wedding halfway through when it's happening, when there is a demand of dowry, or in the first month or in the next month. And it's completely okay. I think there should be some kind of a celebration of that and more of coverage, so that it normalizes that kind of things for the rest of the families, I feel, who still in the threshold of patriarchy and these kind of stupid old notions.
I agree.
No, actually, that is very important. If people do have such kind of stories, do tell us. We would love to cover about why you chose to walk out when dowry was asked of you or from your family.
Yeah. In a related conversation, Vismaya dowry death, the Supreme Court has suspended Kiran Kumar's sentence and he's been granted bail. The suspension, he was of course convicted for a dowry-related death of his wife, Vismaya V. Nair. This is a case that has been covered quite extensively. How disappointing is it that his sentence has been suspended?
So, of course, that is pending appeal. Let's hope that the Supreme Court does dispose of the case in the next 1 or 2 years and doesn't wait for 20 years, because this guy will be out on bail. Remember, he was a government servant. He was actually sacked from government service when this happened. What I want to point out, that whether it's in the case of Vismaya or Dhanya, one reason why their husbands are in trouble are because these women left evidences and trails. For example, Vismaya had pictures of her injuries. She had multiple phone calls recorded. She had sent voice notes to her brother, to her father. The same with Dhanya. But there are so many women who are dying without thinking about all this, right? Without telling somebody else is happening. So these are very rare cases. Like this Vismaya's case, I would say, is a rare case where somebody actually gets punished for abetment of suicide because of all the phone calls which could be retrieved from her phone and the voice notes she sent.
There's actually a related campaign that we're doing. Our colleague Sukanya has in fact done a video interview, brilliant one. Link is there. I would suggest you watch it. But Dhanya, it's a lot deeper than this, right? When it is a direct transactional dowry related demand, it is perhaps documented a bit more. But what happens when your looks, your skin color, your personality, everything is scrutinized, criticized, and you internalize it so much that you have no confidence, and eventually you take an extreme step. That too needs to be looked at very closely.
Yeah, so Sukanya's story looks at the women who died because of body shaming and because they were not fair enough or they were too dark, and that was one of a gamut of reasons for which they were harassed.
So the Telugu states get new BJP presidents. In Andhra, PVN Madhav has already taken charge as the Andhra BJP chief. And in Telangana, former MLC Ramchandra Rao has now been announced. Of course, he's yet to formally take over. Now, what this will do in Andhra, of course, the previous president was Purandeshwari. She was the daughter of former Chief Minister NTR. What will this do to the organization in both the states?
So Telangana is interesting because Itala was supposed to take over as the BJP chief, but he's not been given the opportunity. Now that's because Itala, when he came to the BJP, it was believed that he would bring a lot of leaders, which he couldn't do. And of course that there will be a lot of people who will resign if he is made. But we have seen that when Ramchandra Rao was announced, immediately hate speech expert of the BJP, Raja Singh, has resigned.
Yeah. Thank God for small mercies.
Yeah, no, but I was reading a quote by our former colleague Charan Teja in an article on The Wire. Charan is saying that if the Sangh Parivar is a family, then Raja Singh is like that child who keeps throwing tantrums. He will keep resigning, but the BJP will bring him back.
Yeah, but he's also said he'll continue working for Hindutva.
Yeah.
So maybe this is actually bad news because he'll just be completely unhinged now.
He's always unhinged.
More so.
Yeah.
Bengaluru women commuters demand Karnataka High Court to reconsider bike taxi ban. And of course, the state government has said that despite the push by the union government, they will not reconsider the legislation.
Okay, so we're done with the headlines and we will go to the first discussion of the day, which is ever since he was sworn in as a Chief Minister of Karnataka on the 20th of May 2023, it's like the clock is ticking on Siddaramaiah's head as to when he has to step down. Initially, everybody knew that it was a 2.5 year time period which he would be given as a Chief Minister. And the next 2.5 years would be DK Shivakumar most probably, or that's a theory which was widely accepted. Now that the 2.5 year time period is coming to an end, the discussion has gathered steam yet again as to whether Siddaramaiah will step down and DK Shivakumar will come in. Now, the political dialogues aside, yesterday we saw Siddaramaiah saying that he will continue to be the chief minister for all 5 terms. It's not like he can come and say, no, I will quit after 2.5 or 3 years. So he's maintaining that. DK Shivakumar on the other side is saying that, oh, I will listen to the High Command. I have no other option. But if Siddaramaiah is the chief minister, I will be his deputy. But I think the funniest comment was from Mallikarjun Kharge, who said that the High Command will decide. I think Mallikarjun Kharge for a minute forgot that he is the High Command, right?
Old habits die hard, I say.
Exactly. No, so I think in this discussion, we are not just going to limit
No,
it.
Dhanya, what Kharge might have meant is the High Command will decide in consultation with the MLAs, which then would make it an in-house situation. Not that an external agent is deciding, but it's an inside decision. Anyway, please go on.
But if you
No,
hear
but
that-
in his, you're right to point out, in his eyes, the High Command does not mean the person, the AICC president. I mean, it means, there's some other power center that is. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, there is that reading. But I was trying to wonder if he may have meant we'll all decide.
Okay, anyway, it was just a half joke. So if Mallikarjun Kharge is listening, he can forgive us. No, but the other thing I would just want to tell our viewers is that I don't want to restrict this discussion to, okay, will DK Shivakumar come, okay, will Siddaramaiah. But what does it mean if Siddaramaiah actually has to step down and a different kind of politician like DK Shivakumar becomes the chief minister of Karnataka?
I just want to add before we take this up, I remember having the same conversation when Yediyurappa, the same will he be asked to step down conversation was going on. And I'd written a piece at the time about what it would mean for secularism or secular fabric of Karnataka if he steps down and anybody else, literally anybody else comes in his place. Because at the time we didn't know who would replace him. And look at how that panned out. Basavaraj Bommai came and what we saw over the next couple of years was disastrous, to put it mildly. So yes, I think who is at the helm of affairs will determine a lot for people. So I urge people to be more political and not say, oh, it doesn't matter who's a CM, they're all the same. It does make a lot of difference.
And anyway, first to just discuss the question quickly as to whether Siddaramaiah will step down after 2.5 years. Personally, what I am hearing is that eventually he will have to, whether it is 2.5 or 3. But the decision as to who will be the next chief minister is not as clear as daylight that it will be DK Shivakumar himself. I mean, he had a better chance 2.5 years ago, but over what's been happening in the last 2.5 years, there is more discontent, and even the High Command is a bit doubtful whether the baton can just be passed on to him. But one cannot write off the fact that DK believes this is his due, that he has spent money, he has spent resources, he has made the Congress, that he has a big credit of making the Congress win, and therefore he should be given his due, which is to become the chief minister.
To be fair, Dhanya, I think a lot of how much credit DK Shivakumar is due is exaggerated, and I think these are also planted in the media very systematically to make it seem like he's the end-all and be-all. Yes, there are other people who've been funding the party. He's a large part of that. But I think the whole thing, the way it is played out is very ugly. DK Shivakumar, in what we understand, has been promised that after 2.5 years, you'll get your due. So there shouldn't be confusion. There should be more public debate over that, because what it does is the public has no confidence in the administration. The bureaucrats, the people who are working within the government machinery find it difficult to take anybody seriously. If you feel like this chief minister is not going to say, and I think it's very visible in the way the administration is running, Siddaramaiah no longer has the kind of grip on his own government like he did in the first term, 2013 to 2018. So it's very telling, because there is this semi-retirement sort of a vibe coming out. And there is a lull in governance. You've seen the roads in Bengaluru. We've seen how garbage is getting, piled up everywhere.
Can roads be the symbol of lack of governance?
It can be, because it's a
always
trickle-down effect.
Yeah, that's true.
In the absence of a council, BBMP council, it is a trickle-down effect.
Professor Gowda?
Yeah. The 2.5 arrangement, everything is in the realm of speculation, but there was some credibility to that thesis that, because the election had been fought with both of them in the forefront, one of them the masked leader, the other guy the organizational man, and, Pooja, I think DK Shivakumar did do a lot of on-the-ground work in South Karnataka at least, in getting leaders from other parties to switch over, etc., etc. So, so I don't think his claim to CM-ship is based on just his sense of self-importance. I mean, there's a lot of work behind it. But be that as it may, what I feel, in no one, okay, now if Siddaramaiah is to make way for DK Shivakumar, the question is, well, he's not in any mood to retire. What else can the Congress offer him? And that he can be made part of the CWC, or he can be asked to become a Rajya Sabha member, and a seat opens up, April sometime. So there is that possibility that he, stays on for longer. But it doesn't look like he's interested in either of those two positions, which puts the party in a genuine dilemma about, what do we do post CM for him? What kind of position can be created for him? Now, as far, I just think that, DK Shivakumar, by being a claimant for the CM-ship post, in the Siddaramaiah, I wish, if I were him, who holds the irrigation portfolio, a lot of which, the work unfolds in North Karnataka, he's been a South Karnataka man, more or less. He could have actually used this as an opportunity to cultivate a certain kind of presence and visibility over the last 2.5 years. And that hasn't happened. I wish that had happened. Because the Congress party, whatever else may be the case, will want to know, the next time we go to the electorate, in what shape will we be under A and under B? That's going to be their overwhelming criterion for deciding the shift in CM-ship. So a lot of factors will have to be juggled very finely. And I don't think the preparatory work has been done. And yes, and I don't think the Congress is going to decide on its own at the high command level. It can't ignore the wishes of the legislators, and the legislators, have there a lot. If Siddaramaiah matters electorally for the electoral fortunes in 150 constituencies, those MLAs will be thinking about their re-election prospects. So they will want him to continue, right? So how do you now square off against that calculus? So there are lots of things to be balanced here. But yesterday's comments by Siddaramaiah saying he will of course continue, and DK Shivakumar saying I'll definitely stand by him, etc. This is political rhetoric, and Hindu has done a headline on that. A lot of papers have done headlines. We just don't know if that's a reflection of the real state of affairs. But people in the Congress say we need to speak like that because the bureaucracy can't be freaking out about not being around. That officers not being around for longer, in which case they will not initiate programs that will take a longer time to finish, etc. So there is very much that concern. As far as handling the administration, which you anyway are saying is spiraling out of control.
Now, I just want to add one point here. For example, we have seen this whole chief ministership fights in Karnataka multiple times, not just in the Congress, even in the BJP, whether Chandan Gowda will come, Jagdish Shettar. We have seen
Even in the JDS, actually, in the early 2000s.
So multiple times it has come. Now the question to me as a journalist is, I think there has been an understanding much before the elections and especially after the victory that there would be a handover of power from Siddaramaiah to DK Shivakumar, let's say, let's keep it in brackets, but there would be a handover power. Now the question here is the Congress High Command completely in control of things that tomorrow if they say, Siddaramaiah, you have to step down and the successor will be so and so, will Siddaramaiah do it?
I think this time he might. Because this was an agreement from before. It wasn't. Also, what next for him? What can he fight with? So there will be, I think, a smoother transition. Sorry?
Pooja, the agreement is a fictitious thing. It may have happened, it may not have happened. We don't know, right? The supporters will say there was no agreement. There was absolutely no, Siddaramaiah supporters will say he had a 5-year offer.
No, I don't think so. Even if you speak to anybody.
I don't so, but we are actually basing this entire thing on a supposed understanding that's been reached. Because if it had been reached and things were crystal clear, it wouldn't have taken this form.
I think the reason why it's taken this form, Dhanya, is twofold. One, DK Shivakumar is getting anxious as the November deadline is approaching. So he wants to keep the pressure up. And I mean, he understandably he's a little skeptical on whether the transition will happen. I don't think the question any longer, at least in the minds of people within the Congress, is whether the handover will happen or not. It's about when it will happen. Will it happen at the end of 2.5 years, or will he get an extension of another, say, 6 to 8 months, where he'll be allowed to complete 3 years, so he can break the record of Devarajas as the longest serving Chief Minister of Karnataka. This is what my understanding. Two quick points I want to make, two important points Professor Gowda raised. DK Shivakumar's, I think the biggest problem at this point is he's not seen as a pan-Karnataka leader, and he had a great opportunity to rectify that by making himself more visible, more familiar in northern parts of Karnataka, Kalyana Karnataka, Belagavi Karnataka. He failed to take that up because of his obsession with South Karnataka, particularly Ramnagara and Bengaluru. So that's one missed opportunity. The second part is also about the fact that there is talk about what he can bring to the table. And these are conversations I've had with MNCs, people who come for meetings with both Siddaramaiah and DK Shivakumar. And there's a stark contrast in how they approach them. Siddaramaiah, they say, is not even interested in engaging with them, whereas DK Shivakumar is very enthusiastic. Whatever you want, we'll give it to you. Come and invest in Karnataka. So I think these are very different approaches both of them have.
Before going to Professor Gowda again and Leena, can I just make two quick points? One is, of course, I agree with Professor Gowda that you are giving too less credit for DK Shivakumar's work before election. And as a party, I think the Congress has to really think ahead now, right? They have to ask themselves the question, can we afford to alienate DK Shivakumar as a leader? If you do not give him his due, then what can he take away from the party, which is organizational, which is money, which is a lot of things, right? He brings that heft to the party, and he is someone who has stuck to the party despite all your ED trouble. We have seen across states Congress leaders just leaving the ship as soon as at the first advent of trouble. DK Shivakumar is someone who's not done that. In fact, I have asked him multiple times, will you go to the BJP? He's like, no, I'll stay back. Now, there is no guarantee that in the future he will not leave the Congress and
but
go, right?
But it seems highly unlikely. I don't think he'll do what Sachin Pilot.
Yeah, so
he's having conversations. He won't be a Jyotiraditya Scindia. I think that's fairly certain.
Yeah, so that is one thing, the Congress. But I think the issue with DK Shivakumar is that while, for example, he is someone who's vociferously talking about the 5 guarantees, the so-called socialist image also that he wants to have, he can't forget that he's a real estate person, I feel. So half the time he is saying guarantee. Next line he's like, I want to buy more land or do this and build flyovers, which is the problem, I feel. When he becomes the chief minister, we are not very clear as to what he brings to a table. Professor Gowda?
Very quickly, to something that Pooja brought earlier. See, Siddaramaiah is originally a Janata person. So the Janata ethos is a socialist ethos. In the sense, they will believe in a welfare state. They will believe in agricultural, society and their strength, etc. They will want the corporate people to be there by themselves, but not to take over the scene, the way establishment allowed for it to happen. But if you look at the policies, the IT growth was happening at its fastest during the Janata regime. The J.H. Patel, Deve Gowda, and others, or both of whom never bothered to shake hands or to be seen with the corporate honchos. So there's a difference between symbolic approachability or the language of social justice Siddaramaiah inhabits, but you should look at the policies. I have a feeling it's been a pro-business, policy all along.
Professor Gowda, what kind of politics will DK Shivakumar bring in? That's the question, right? For example,
it's very clear. Then you're absolutely right. I mean, so far he has thrown all his behind building the infrastructure of Bangalore, be it the tunnel, be it all these, renaming of districts nearby. So he's actually, as an urban development minister, and the trifurcation of the BBMP, all of that shows a certain kind of attachment to, Bangalore, real estate, financial development, infrastructure development, etc. Now, that for me doesn't reflect an all-rounded sort of concern with the state. I wish he was, like I said, he holds the irrigation portfolio, but you don't see him talk about that very much. So yeah, I don't know, Dhanya. I don't know he's got advisors. I don't know what's happening in that space in terms of maybe he's keeping his cards close to his chest. Maybe when he becomes CM, we'll see them all. I don't know. But so far, he's been very trying hard to cultivate an image that ties him to Bangalore and its future.
Which also is very controversial because some of his projects are very problematic. Yeah.
Very mild.
No,
I think it's very problematic.
we're not talking about the advisability of what he's proposing to do. Just the what has he, proposed to do. These are the big sort of, spending things that he's offered to do. But like I say, but what I find interesting is he wants to also be a Vakaliga leader at the same time.
Yeah.
And if you want to do that, agriculture is a sector you need to take very, very seriously. Not in terms of a policy interest, but in terms of, doing the work of being with them, listening to their problems, trying to see what needs to be done, etc.
Professor Gowda is that, let us say, DK Shivakumar is not made the chief minister and he is angry at the Congress. What is the kind of loss or problems that he can inflict on the Congress?
Hard to say. I mean, okay, if he moves from within the party, the only other party he can go to is the BJP. Yes, and and it's if Congress, in Karnataka depends heavily on the organizational prowess of DK Shivakumar, and there's no one else to match that stature right now. Right, you have a mass-based support of Siddaramaiah and an organizational kind of strength of DK Shivakumar. It's a winning combination. You can't go win an election with either of these things. It's just a very difficult spot they are in.
I think the loss, if at all, which I don't think will happen, the loss of DK Shivakumar will be a huge, huge dent for the Congress. Simply because he has the kind of drive to get things done, something that nobody else in Congress has. I would say nobody in Congress across the country has that kind of drive to go get things done. Now, what he's used that drive for is a different conversation. He's emerged as the first among equals, even Parmeshwara, MB Patil. Many people have those aspirations, Satish Jakioli even. But I think DK Shivakumar will be a fairly obvious choice to replace Siddaramaiah. Now, we have our own reservations about his style of governance and all of that. But party will not push him far enough for him to consider leaving the party this time around.
Leena, you've been patiently listening.
So I'm going to take a long view and look at it from the high command's position, Dhanya. So every time that there needs to be a generational shift of leaders, one who has been a very successful CM, like let's say Siddaramaiah, a very strong OBC leader with a sort of art and culture sense and the kind of hold he has on the larger imagination of people, and look at someone like DK Shivakumar, a younger generation, a man of money and land, and who can talk business straightforward. But Congress has had these issues in every generation when a leader comes up and he holds like, I am the most representative person to be in the CM post from this generation. These kind of fights the high command has to lead with, and where has that led it? When it came to the Rajasthan Assembly elections 2023, right, and Ashok Gehlot and Sachin Pilot had this controversy and how that ended up costing the party. Again, the Kamal Nath and Jyotiraj Scindia fight of 2020. All of that has not put the party, it has not been able to kind of smoothly transition from this earlier generation to this younger generation.
1 minute, DK Shivakumar very happy at 63-year-old that Leena considers him young. Youngish. Yeah. Okay, yeah.
But Dhanya, I know nobody's asked our suggestion, but I think there is still a win-win situation that the Congress High Command can look at.
Yes, Pooja.
Right?
High command.
Here's what you can do. I don't think Siddaramaiah is going to fight too hard to complete his 5-year term, right? Allow him to complete whatever 3 years that he wants to, so he retires happy. DK Shivakumar can be made the chief minister. Siddaramaiah is not interested in a national role, never has been. You make him CWC, it makes no difference to his life. What he would in turn want, give him a little more control over KPCC, allow him to appoint a proxy, he will run KPCC on the side. At best, give him a more prominent position for his son. He's not somebody who will make a lot of trouble for somebody like DK Shivakumar. He'll be in his cabinet, he'll be an asset. What can Siddaramaiah do? He can build the Ahinda movement. It is something that can change the shape of Karnataka politics, allow him to go back to his root, allow him to bring Ahinda community back into the Congress fold by building a parallel movement, not just for politics, but for a larger cause too.
So that's advice from Pooja,
Take
which
it
the
or leave it.
Congress
This is
didn't
what I
ask
have
for.
to say.
No, but I just want to my just closing thoughts are that we have covered so many times, right? This whole thing of MLAs being taken to resorts, but that's always come from the BJP.
Yeah.
Janardhan Reddy to Jagdish Shettar, Sadananda
in
Gowda.
Congress too.
No, but not as much as it has happened in the BJP in the recent at least 15, 20 years. I feel that though we are all discussing this, eventually when that time comes, Siddaramaiah will listen. Though people around him may not, he will personally listen, which is what even DK Shivakumar's camp will tell you, that they don't have a personal problem with Siddaramaiah, who they think will value this so-called agreement, but people around him may not. So thank you, Professor Gowda, for joining us here at the News Minute for South Central.
Thank you. It's fun to be with you all.
Okay, so the second discussion is going to be something which I think comes up almost every year or once in 2 years, when the RSS and the BJP suddenly have a problem with the preamble of the Constitution. This time, the controversy has been raked up by the General Secretary of the RSS, Dattatreya Hosabale, who has said that why were these two words, secularism and socialism, inserted in the preamble of the Constitution using the 42nd Amendment. He was, of course, talking at an event to mark 50 years of the emergency. So the RSS's line is that this is Ambedkar's preamble versus Indira Gandhi's preamble, and therefore we have to go back to Ambedkar's preamble, which did not have the word secularism and socialism. We have seen multiple reactions coming after that, including Vice President Dhankar jumping into the controversy, Assam Chief Minister, and also many other BJP leaders. So we're going to discuss as to couple of things. One is, of course, this whole assertion by the RSS and the BJP that, okay, 42nd Amendment was done by Indira Gandhi during the emergency. Therefore, it cannot be taken into consideration, that there was no consensus in the parliament. The opposition did not have a word, and therefore we could go back. And I also want to look at the role of the media, right? How it has changed. Like I was watching debates in English, Hindi. The media's line is also now considerably changed, especially on TV channels. And they also want the 42nd Amendment in the preamble to go. First thoughts, Pooja?
I mean, I'm not surprised with the role of the media because they merely go by the notes that they've been handed over. And I say this with a lot of responsibility. But yeah, the people who've spoken up, from Vice President Dhankar, of course, Dattatreya Hosabale spoke about it, two union ministers, Jitendra Singh and Shivraj Singh Chauhan has spoken. So I worry that this will no longer just be a debate on or conversation on emergency and Indira Gandhi and the horrors of the emergency period. I feel like, there is a monsoon session of the parliament coming. I worry something will be there on this, and there is a build-up. There is a public opinion that is being built in this direction.
So there are lots of things that they are saying, right? One is that this is an amendment brought by Indira Gandhi, which is completely undemocratic, and that Ambedkar himself did not want. Now, of course, they are quoting the Constituent Assembly debates only half, because during the debate, it was brought up. K.T. Shah, in fact, Pooja has done, let me explain. Yeah. I was looking at that
third one.
Let me explain, the lighting, everything was so sad. But yes, that episode was very good. Anyway, K.T. Shah did bring up federal, socialist, secular, to which Ambedkar replies mostly about socialist, but he does talk about fundamental duties and directive policy. So this whole narrative that it is Ambedkar's preamble versus Indira Gandhi's preamble.
Yeah, I think there are 2-3 parts to this. In fact, Dattatreya Hosabale has raised this question on 3 grounds. One is it was inserted by Indira Gandhi, and it was inserted undemocratically because there was emergency. Third and very important thing, their ideological agenda, that socialism and secularism is alien to Indian tradition and Indian civilization. Before addressing that, how hypocritical they are. In fact, if they go by their Sarasanga Chalak, Bala Saheb Devaras was the Sarasanga Chalak during the emergency, and he was arrested. And it is on record that Sarasanga Chalak Bala Saheb Devaras had written 3 confession letters to Indira Gandhi asking her to release the RSS people. They understood the necessity of the emergency today, and especially after her 1975, that August 15th speech. He says that now he realizes the necessity of that, and they will collude with Congress to suppress the communist, and the emergency is the necessity. So that is their hypocrisy. And Vajpayee, their ground level workers actually were arrested, but their top leaders were not much, except Advani, and Vajpayee was not even 6 hours in the jail. That is the hypocrisy of the BJP. Coming to these three parts, the third part we can discuss in detail later, is whether it is alien to Indian civilization or what. The first part is, as you suggested, KT Shah had raised this question, and to answer secularism, Ambedkar thought it is very, very superfluous. Why? Because the very Article 14, Article 15, 25, 26, 29, everything talks about how there is freedom of religion and state will not have religion. There will be freedom of religion to the people, and the state itself will not be having any religion. And what else is secularism other than this? And about socialism, the first part of his answer in the debate was that socialism is a kind of organization of the society, and in the constitution you cannot actually delineate how society should be organizing itself. But in the second part, he in detail he explains how the directive principles of state policy, especially Article 39 to 42, completely is in the spirit of socialism, and he ends the debate by saying, if this is not socialism, what else is socialism? And there is other part, because they say that Ambedkar was not a socialist, etc. Ambedkar was a hardcore socialist, because when you say socialism, you confuse that with communism. There are different brands of communism. Communists call themselves as scientific communists. There are Fabian socialists, there are state socialists, there are Wovenian socialists. And Ambedkar was more inclined towards a kind of Fabian socialist thinking.
And socialist democracy is also a bit different from socialism itself. Yes.
Exactly. And socialist democracy almost aligned with the Fabian socialist kind of thinking. And in its actual constitution, in fact, you might remember that in 1947, when he was asked by Scheduled Caste Federation to actually write a memorandum of how it could protect, the future constitution of India would protect the minorities, he wrote a detailed alternate constitution that is called as State and Minorities and Their Rights and How to Achieve It in the United States of India. There he specifically mentions socialism should be part of the fundamental right. It should have a constitutional force, because he says nowhere in the world socialism is left to parliamentary majority, because parliamentary majority can change. But if the socialism has to take deep roots, it should have a constitutional force, and that's why he says nationalization of the land, nationalization of the principal key industries, nationalization of the insurance, cooperative farming, and state socialism, which should be part of the constitutional rights. That is Ambedkar. He could not do that in the Constitution Assembly, because out of the 289 members of the Constitution Assembly, not everyone was inclined towards that, and he had to go by the majority, again the Constitutional Assembly majority. That's why the rest of the thing, whatever he proposed in the state and minorities, became part of DPSP, that is Directive Principles of State Policy, which has that welfare state spirit. And this is what is mentioned on November 24th, 2024 by the two-bench Supreme Court headed by the then Chief Justice Sanjeev Khanna, who said that socialism is not communism, it is basically welfare status kind of thing, and secularism is very much in the constitution.
Yeah.
What Indira Gandhi did, Indira Gandhi actually paraphrased it, paraphrased whatever was existing in the constitution and inserted in the constitution preamble. Now the question is whether that was a majority, and it is very, very laughable that BJP says about the majority in passing the laws, where you can see that all the opposition members were actually thrown out in 2023. Telecom bill was passed, so many bill was passed. So I don't think it is their case to say that there was no parliament, I mean there was no majority, there was no discussion, etc. Of course, the right question to be asked today, 75 years after the constitution, is not about whether those words were in the constitution, why the essence is not implemented after the 75 years. You have a Hindu Rashtra people very much in the constitutional offices and in the streets, and the socialism is not at all there. After 91, we have a different kind of organization of the economic order. So the larger question should be that. But then RSS is quite hell-bent on making this as a Hindu Rashtra, a corporate Rashtra. That's why the third argument of the Hosbale, who says that it is alien to Indian culture and tradition. Then the question is, what is Indian culture and tradition? India is not Brahminical India. You had Brahman India and Shraman India. Ambedkar says that the history of India is the struggle between Brahminical India and the Shraman or Buddhist India. Buddha said Gnana, Shila, Karuna and Maitri, Samata and Mamata. And whereas the Brahminical order said inequality is the order of the day, equality is artificial. So there was a struggle, and the all Avaidic traditions, if you call them religion, not religion as such in the Western parlance, all these, the Basava, the Buddha, all the Avaidic traditions had argued for a kind of Samabhava and Samanata, if that was the essence of socialism and secularism. And all through, the Brahminical ideology never argued for that. It always maintained the dominance of a particular thinking. So you can say socialism and secularism were not part of the Brahminical India. That I can concede, but not rest of India.
So I think couple of things here. First, Indira Gandhi, of course, had her own reasons of bringing the 42nd Amendment, also known as the mini constitution.
And one just addition. See, you mentioned 42nd Amendment. 42nd Amendment was a mini constitution. In fact, it brought in an amendment to so many things. And in 1978, when Janata Party formed the government, where Bharatiya Janata Sangh was the integral part of it, they brought in 44th Amendment, and they did not amend socialism
and fundamental duties
and
also.
fundamental duties. They didn't amend that. And that continued. And even after the 11 years of Modi and prior to that 6 years of Vajpayee government, they didn't do. So this is the hypocrisy, basically.
Yeah. No, so what I was saying is Indira Gandhi had her reasons, which are very questionable as to why she brought in socialist. Yeah. Garibi Hatao was her motto. She wanted to appeal to a certain section of people, which is why she brought that. And secular too. Now, the RSS to now question the whole, the two words itself, socialist and secular, and simply camouflage or obfuscate the debate saying that, oh, it was brought in by Indira Gandhi in an undemocratic way. The question to be asked to the RSS is, would you have been okay if this were words in the constitution which was drafted by B.R. Ambedkar?
So, Dhanya, I want to just call out a little bit more the hypocrisy of the RSS and BJP here. Today, they are positioning this entire debate, like you said, as Ambedkar versus Indira Gandhi. But the same RSS at the time had vociferously protested against not just the very, certain sections of the constitution, but the very spirit of the constitution. In fact, I'm quoting from Organizer, which is RSS mouthpiece. This had appeared on the 30th of November, 1949. This is what it said. The worst thing about the new constitution of Bharat is that there is nothing Bharatiya about it. We had our own laws, and by that they mean Dharma Shastra and Manu Shastra. We had our own laws based on our customs and traditions, laws that truly reflect the soul of our people. And this is what they said in 49. Now, they had rejected the constitution at the time. They reinvented themselves because after BJP became a political force to reckon with. In 2012, the BJP constitution, again, the hypocrisy of this organization, it says that the Constitution of India as by law established and to principles of socialism, secularism and democracy. This is what BJP would uphold. So they've done a 360-degree turn on this. It is just political opportunism. There is no concrete reason being given why these two terms need to be dropped. Now, you can argue how it was added. We can argue about the political reasons of Indira Gandhi. She wanted to counter Jayaprakash Narayan at the time. She wanted to also assure the minorities because this is when there was fear about, family planning measures being forced upon them. And generally, she wanted to also win back the trust of the people in emergency time. Now, you can argue about all this, but 50 years have passed. There is a very strong message that goes out if today, given the political atmosphere, if you drop these two things, it won't be seen as a counter to emergency. You will be alienating marginalized communities even further.
Leena, you want to come in here?
Yes, let me. So deeply thankful for RSS every time they bring up these discussions, deeply grateful to them when they bring up constitution. Maybe all of those people, maybe we all should observe a 2-minute silence for all of those RSS BJP supporters who think Indira's emergency was very bad for India and right now this undeclared emergency is going very good. Maybe they would take a minute to go and read up what the BK16 case is, how the Bhima Koregaon people are the fighters of of our very own era are behind the jail without bail, and how many of them has died without even getting a bail that should have human considerations be given to them. And look at the people on the street who have fought against this government, the farmers protest, the JNU protest, and what has happened to people that have stood up and raised voice against this very democratic government that they think is in power. So 2-minute silence for all of them, maybe we should observe. But because it's a podcast, let's go on. And I'm thankful that they think that Ambedkar and whatever he voiced is good. Great. Go read the Annihilation of Caste that they wrote against the very Hinduism that you want to now become the religion of this country, that you think that is truly what Bharat is all about. Great. Now go read that too again and look at the constitutional debates that Ambedkar had, what he thought about the things, and also go read why he took his people along with him and denounced the religion and went into Buddhism, and whether those same circumstances still exist in this country. So after you have done all those, please go read the Constitution, maybe a few sections of the Constitution that you haven't read before, that Indira Gandhi didn't introduce, Articles 14, 15, 25, 26, 29, where Article 25 itself would say freedom of conscience and free profession, practice, and propagation of religion. What Ambedkar himself believed when he didn't put secularism there, that Indian government should treat all religions equally. And whenever I've looked at India as a democratic country, and I've looked at other democratic countries, the president of the US swears while he's putting his hand on the Bible of what his constitutional duties are going to be. The first blessing is a big church blessing that happens for the president of the United States. In England, Great Britain, church and the government is married again, and it's a very feudalistic setup there too. But India has, when it went into independence, because it was a popular movement, it was people, it was very leaders, the kind of leaders who sacrificed a lot for this country, who led that movement, had sort of stepped away from every evil forces and tried to build a country, even though the Congress party who was leading the movement was still in the clutches of caste. And even though we can still say that Congress is nothing but BJP minus the cow, that it's still a casteist party, that it still has a religious hold on it, but still those leaders tried to step away from that clutches and take India to a modern Indian space. And we were proud of the kind of science, the kind of space programs we had at the time, the kind of dams that we built and called them the true temples of new India. And look at where it's going down, where now the prime minister of the country won't go to visit a place in the northeast where there is massacre happening, but would sit in a fully televised whole day long laying of the brickstone of a temple that he thinks built on a land that is a lot of heartburn in this modern Indian times. And look, even now, right now in the headlines, we read how Andhra Pradesh and Telangana have a new BJP leader now coming up. Look at what their past history is. One of those has been a long time RSS Swayam Sevak, who has also fought the case of Asiman and then others in the Mecca blast, and got them free from the clutches of law. And these are people who have forefronted Hindu terror, have killed more than 100 people in this modern country. And this is a party that supports them openly. And you want to tell me that this is a party who is fighting against and thinks Indira's emergency is bad, who's thinking that India's constitutional values that Ambedkar put in are what we need to go back to? Please give me a break. Thank you.
I've never seen Leena this angry ever, so we are just a little bit stunned now. And
But amazing. I mean,
yeah. Okay.
good
Anyway,
points made. But Dhanya, I just want to add, look, this is the conversation we need to be having, right? And if you watch news channels today, every such conversation, like Leena said, is an opportunity to look back, because not everybody has the time to go and do research, and it's our job to do it for people. But what are news channels doing? They're just parroting the lines. He said this, she said this. I heard an anchor, a very popular anchor, say Vadra Congress brought this in. I don't know.
Vadra Congress did sterilization.
This sterilization was Vadra born. I don't know. I mean, how old he is or whatever, but he was certainly not married into the Congress family.
Yeah. No, so I just want to quickly just come across to you for one more point. This whole discussion, why do you think, I feel like it's an experiment that they do, like a experiment balloon. That they
Also
fly.
deflection. Now my worry is, what are they deflecting from?
Yeah.
No, I don't think it is a deflection. In fact, it is part of the strategy. In fact, RSS and BJP have always been putting the strategy depending on the Yuga Dharma. In fact, way back in 1944, when the whole nation was at the verge of becoming independent, etc., when there was a kind of left of the center current, even Savarkar came out with a constitution which said Constitution of Free Hindustan. He did not say Bharat even. He said Free Hindustan, where state will not have religion was very particularly mentioned, and Article 25 in its whole, literally the whole Article 25 was part of the Savarkar's constitution. And after 2 years, Savarkar says, no, Manusmriti should be the constitution. It is the greatest constitution of not only India, the world civilization. 1949, RSS says the very same thing. 1969, BJP comes out with election manifesto, which was a kind of, their economic agenda was the replica of the Communist Party of India. And again, so that is their metamorphosis. Whenever they can actually bring in the Hindu Rashtra more blatantly, they see the opportune time. Post-90s, it has been a very conducive atmosphere. Now they don't want to hide anything. They want to come out with their true Hindu Rashtra color and they want to convince. See, it is the hegemony of a particular ideology on which they are building their whole politics. It is not like Congress. It is not transactional. It is political, ideological. RSS said they want to actually make a Hindu Samaj. The RSS, in fact, in 1937 did not support Savarkar. And Savarkar was very angry with RSS because Hedgewar said then that we don't want immediate capturing of the Rashtra. We want Samaj to be Hindutva Samaj. And that they are doing very consistently for the past 100 years. So this is another agenda to bring in this debate and consider. So the whole thing is alien now. Socialism is alien. And we should ask them one simple question. There are 85 words in the preamble. 4 words were added in 1976. So let us take out that 4 words. Are you comfortable with the rest of the 81 words? For example, you have the descriptive part of the preamble. Justice, social, economic and political. Equality of opportunity and status. And liberty of this conscience, etc. So are you okay with that? So they want to change the whole thing. And it is very same Ambedkar in the partition of the question of Pakistan who said Hindu Rashtra would be a menace to democracy. He said that in those many words as possible, that it is a menace. So now they want to undo everything. They want to actually take over Ambedkar and Hinduize Ambedkar or Brahminize Ambedkar. Instead, take out constitution from him and put Manusmriti in his hand and show the world Manusmriti is there.
So I think two points. One is the complete missing of nuance, right? For example, why would there is a lot written about why Nehru would have been skeptical or even Ambedkar of the word secular, because in India truly you cannot separate the state from religion. I mean, here is a country where the governments do participate in religious policy making and all sorts of things.
Also, I think the way secularism was viewed at the time, which was a Western concept, which was complete separation, I think people were also worried about whether they'll be allowed to profess their religion.
Constitution Assembly debates about secularism.
Yeah.
Gandhi's influence was there too much. Nehru's influence was there. Ambedkar was actually a Western educated, a kind of the Western kind of secular person. And all this debate actually happened in the Constitution Assembly. And finally, when they came to a conclusion, the point was what would be the religion of the state. That is the crucial point, whether state will support any religion, whether state will have its own religion. On that point, even Indian secularism is very clear that Indian state does not belong to one particular religion. Not even like Sri Lankan type of constitution which says among all equals, Buddhism will be first one among the equals. Not even that. It was almost similar to Western secularism only. In practice, it did not happen. There is a different question. But Indian secularism, whatever, Sarvadharma Samabhava for the state and full freedom of religion to the people of the country. These two are the crucial aspects of the secularism, even the Western secularism. The only part is state will not support.
State will not reject all religions.
Yes.
State will treat all of them with equidistant.
You can say Samadura.
Yeah.
Samabhava and Samadura.
No, I think other than the nuance missing from this entire debate where it's being positioned as Indira Gandhi versus Ambedkar, the second problem that I see is that the question should be turned back to the RSS, right? You have built a secret organization over years. In fact, I was reading this very long profile on the Caravan also, which says RSS has no address or whatever. But the point is, this is a society that is not registered, not a foundation, not a trust, to the extent that in 2017, there was a former Nagpur corporator and a social activist called Janardhan Moon who went and registered another association called Rashtriya Swayamsevak Sangh, because the RSS is actually something which sort of does not exist, right? And they have worked through other organizations. They have built this behemoth, challengeable, of course, whether it's a behemoth
I
or
want to use
not.
the word deep state here because they love using it for other people.
Deep society also.
Deep society. I think
Deep
more
society.
than deep state is deep society. They don't want to influence just politics, right? They want to change society itself. I mean, here is an organization that has worked like this, which will conveniently say, oh, we are not into politics, but every stage they are. And they want the preamble change. We should question them back. What is your locus standi to be doing this when you continue to operate in such a secret, shady manner? They don't even have a list of members, if you ask, and they want the constitution of the country changed.
The question is, it is not considered as a wrongful thing to do. That is a problem. At least in 70s, it was considered as a crime. At least the civil society used to consider that as a crime. Now, in the changed atmosphere, it is considered as a kind of trophy. How best they can organize the society, etc. So what we have to do, at least the progressive who doesn't want this kind of narrative, we have to build our own democratic society. A Hindutva society can only be defeated not through a democratic state, which will no more democratic state if you have a Hindutva society. That's what Ambedkar said. You only have a communal majority here. You cannot have a political majority because our society is not democratic. So if we don't build a democratic society, the natural outcome is this, and they want to keep the people because the maximum reach to the people. Every day it is said that more than 60 lakh people are addressed by the RSS shakas. Nowhere in this world and nowhere in this country. No.
So the new report says the shaka numbers have really gone up.
It was
now.
72,000 according to the Anderson's book in 2017.
No, I think the
now
new
it is too
numbers are
much.
way
Now
more.
it's too
Yeah.
much. In fact, Kerala has the biggest one next to Maharashtra. So I think that is the larger question. If you don't build a democratic society, only through building narratives and only through legal means you cannot actually defeat this particular enemy. That's
Yeah.
the only thing.
So just
I think I wanted to bring in this point also, Dhanya. What Shivasundar said is very accurate, Soon after the independence movement, and I think when our parents' generation was also there was still this tag, these are the people who killed Gandhi, these are the people who killed Gandhi. And whenever there was, even in the Asimanand profile that I wrote, when Asimanand first, his father was a freedom fighter and he was put in the Ramakrishna mission, and he had some RSS friends, and his father says, these are the people who killed Gandhi, you should never make friends with them. And slowly they use literature to sort of get that family and him and his brothers into the RSS fold. But that tag that they were the killers of RSS, and by that they did not have the legitimacy to be part of this democratic society, was strongly in the public imagination, which has really gone down. An RSS man is today running this country, and the RSS Sarsanjalak today enjoys the highest position in this society, has the Z category security to go about and address the larger public, and his statements are covered on front page, and that sort of kind of credibility that they have got in the modern society is a shame for modern India. It's truly a shame for modern India. And these are the people, let me also say that these are the people who criminalized your changing the religion, where your constitution guarantees us, each of us, whatever way we are born in, we have the right to pick the religion, that all faiths will be given equal importance in this country. These people criminalized you picking your own faith when you don't believe in it, and if you want to change faith. Christian missionaries are put in jail and tortured. People who have married a different religion are being, and Supreme Court has recently said, oh, we have to relook at this after people have been in jail just for marrying someone else belonging to some other religion. And these people are talking about constitutional and Ambedkar's values. It's just so much fun for me.
Yeah, I just want to add that there's a 2024-25 report by the Akhil Bharatiya Pratidhi Sabha. It says that the Akhil Bharatiya Pratinidhi Sabha, so it says that there are 80,000 shakhas now, and it is in 50,000 locations. That's almost double the number of what it was in 2014.
You just multiply at least 20 into 80,000. Those many boys every day in the morning will be brainwashed. And there is no parallel organization which could actually bring the democratic values into the new generation. That is their story of their victory. Until we build an alternative thing to this, I think through law, etc., it is not possible. How they legitimize? What are they taught in the shakas? Like how Nathuram Godse was a great hero. That will produce a Pragya Singh. That will actually, that will be legitimized by Narendra Modi by giving her a seat in the parliament. So that is the process.
No, the legitimacy part is very important, Dhanya, because I think the doubling or the tripling, whatever has happened, is mainly because of mainstreaming of RSS, like Leena rightly mentioned. And I think a large turning point was Pranab Mukherjee attending the RSS, graduations.
Long before.
Right, but visibly, I'm saying a congressman who was seen as a staunch congressman, although you can question his ideology.
Jayaprakash Narayan, during
Right.
the emergency, it was Jayaprakash Narayan who said that if you call RSS a fascist, I am
So
also
am I a fascist.
So they were totally undermined. In fact, but not totally. In fact, in 1969 elections, actually, they had made a ministry along with the other anti-Congress parties in Uttar Pradesh. They were actually members in the cabinet even in the West Bengal. In fact, Narendra Modi is on record saying that in 1969, from Kolkata to Delhi, you could come without crossing a Congress state. So in all there, you had BJP states, and especially during emergency. During emergency, Jayaprakash Narayan completely, laundered all their mistakes, like political laundering. He did that, and RSS became a very legitimate thing. Then afterwards, as you said, Pranab Mukherjee's and all these.
A lot
Shashi
of people
Tharoor's.
who were probably on the fence now thought that it's acceptable to be openly part of RSS, irrespective of when it was added, why it was added, how it was added. The fact that Indian constitution is truly secular and social in nature cannot be taken away by this. And the last hypocrisy of it, this is a prime minister who has come to power again and again because of socialist schemes. Let him, he can call Revidi when others do it. But look at his own set of schemes, right? The CSS schemes that they've been doling out. So you cannot any longer say that we don't endorse socialism. And socialism and welfare schemes have had a very strong role in India, not collapsing like Pakistan in terms of economy. I don't even need to talk about how important role of secularism is. So irrespective of what they say, these two have been pillars of the country, which is why we've reached where we've reached, unlike a Bangladesh, unlike a Sri Lanka, unlike a Pakistan or Nepal. And today the conversation is moot. I think we should look at more important issues than going back and talking about immaterial things.
But I think the conversation, if at all we're talking, we have to keep coming back to who is the RSS? What is the RSS? What does it stand for? Because it is not just the 50th year of the emergency, it is also 100 years of the RSS. How has this organization really crept into every single aspect of Indian society, Indian governance? And Indians should, read about the dual membership which they try to bring. I mean, RSS can now say that we want to keep out of power, but they did at one point aspire to be part of power. It did not work out, which is why we saw a separation. But last few years, we have seen that government servants are now allowed to be part of organizations like the RSS. So that separation is also going. So the questioning has to be completely there that who is asking for this demand? A secret organization with no proper constitution, membership list, nothing.
But also the vice president. That is a worrying part. It isn't just Dattatreya Hosabale. To sitting ministers, chief minister, vice president.
So now that legitimacy part, whoever is in the government, RSS is equal to nation. Hindutva is the dominant thing. That legitimacy is creeping into all kinds of formation, political formation and into the society. Especially the debates that you were suggesting in the media, even in the Kannada media, no one is actually questioning on the lines that we are discussing. It is completely endorsed, like the chit given by the cabinets, So the legitimacy part and how that will actually breed in. So they don't want whether it is illegal. For example, we are talking about the nuances. Who are you? Whoever maybe I am legitimate enough. Dattatreya Hosabale will be called into parliament to speak in one fine day. And all these university chancellors were summoned by Bhagavat to actually understand what is Indianism, etc. They are already there. They are building a kind of legitimacy for them. And there is a narrative, there is a hegemony of Hindutva. And we are passing through a stage where there is a de jure Hindu Rashtra, Hindu Samaj, Hindutva Samaj. And through that Hindu Rashtra will be done. It is time for us to democratize the society. Ambedkar was in annihilation of caste or in all these things was actually pinpointing this. Our society is not democratic. Caste system is hierarchical. It is supremacist. All supremacist ideologies are inclined to become fascist. So Indian fascism, if you say, has a very, very social base, unlike the Hitler Nazism or the Muslims thing. It has a base. It has a social base. So I always argue that we will have to face a sustained fascism, unlike what Europe faced 10 years, 12 years. We will have to have a sustained, multifaceted and especially a narrative and a organization, a organized feeling of the people which will be inclined towards democracy, which is essentially equality and sarvadharma samabhava.
No, and also the first point that you made, right? 75 years later, we should look at whether we have achieved the essence of the word socialist and secular. Forget whether they are in the preamble or not. How are we as a country progressing? How have we looked at these ideals? Have we really done anything to ensure that we become a secular socialist country? So I feel like, for the sake of this South Central, I had the misfortune of listening to 3 English channel debates, and I really worry for people who watch TV. This debate also, we tried to bring in someone who may have the thought that the preamble can be changed, but we couldn't find anyone who will give a proper explanation as to why.
And also not shout the rest of us down.
Yeah, the only thing we can urge is that read more the Constituent Assembly debates, which people are now talking about, saying Ambedkar did not want secularism or socialism. That's not true. That's not how it happened. Ambedkar had his own reasoning. And if the BJP and the RSS, which is now touting Ambedkar as the person to look up to and his preamble, then do they believe in the actual secular state which Ambedkar envisaged, which is a state where people are looked at equally, no matter what their religion is, what their caste is? Is that what India is moving towards?
A small self-promotion replug, if I may. There was an episode I'd done from on ground in Nagpur. Nagpur happens to be the place where RSS is headquartered, also the place where Ambedkar converted to Buddhism, along with lakhs of people. The relationship RSS had with Ambedkar, although he did have differences with Congress too, those are mostly political. What he had with RSS was more ideological. We'll put the link. You may want to go back and watch it.
So one more thing that we should ask the RSS is, or the BJP also, if you're so against the preamble and the 42nd Amendment, are you wanting to go back to the original constitution, which is even doing away with the First Amendment by Jawaharlal Nehru, right?
See, all the BJP MLAs and all the other Sarasanga, Vahakar, whatever there are structures, they are saying that we want original constitution. The original constitution is the Ambedkar's constitution. The logical question is then the very first amendment, even during the Ambedkar's lifetime only, the first amendment was made in 1951. The first amendment introduced 15/4 and 16/4, which actually empowered the state to give reservation. Even the land reform stems from that, the first constitution. And their own 103rd amendment, which provided reservation for the upper caste. Are they going to say no to that? And the 128th amendment about the reservation for the women. So if they say that they want original constitution, because today's constitution is original constitution plus 128 amendments. If you want original constitution, are you saying that you are against reservation?
You know who you're talking like? Akhilesh Yadav. Because one of the things that he said is that if you want the original constitution, are you then against the reservation? I think the BJP will also hit itself on its own legs with this demand. Because the question is naturally going to be, then are you against the reservation policy itself?
See, but also, we have Bihar elections coming up. It's not FOPA they can afford. But I think they're also being very tricky. They're saying this is the only amendment that tinkered with the preamble of the constitution. The others are fine. This is not acceptable to us.
But when you're saying Ambedkar constitution,
Original.
Ambedkar constitution or
Correct.
original,
Correct.
then you are, because like for example, Arnab Goswami in his show kept holding the 2 preambles saying, do you support this or do you support this? And you have to say yes or no before you start making your point.
Yeah.
So if you say no, I don't support, then you're like, oh, you're against Ambedkar, right?
Stop it, you're scaring
See, they added one more strategy they pursued in the parliament recently. They said that if now onwards, if you want to print the constitution, you should print along with the photograph that it has, not the photograph, that pictures that it has, Why they want to emphasize on that is because they have that is Ramayana there, Mahabharata there. Of course, they have Tipu Sultan also, unfortunately. But pure text of the constitution will speak of secular and socialism. If you have it along with Ramayana and Mahabharata, Gurukula, you have all that. So they want to dilute that. In fact, that is another strategy they are making.
Because Pooja said I'm scaring you. I'm actually quite popular for my mimicry of this.
I'm getting PTSD right now.
Yeah, so I can actually do it in the members meeting. Maybe on
That's
request.
a great incentive to sign up in.
Yeah, come for the members meeting. Yeah. Okay, so I'll quickly read a couple of letters, very few. First is from Suresh Kalapati, and for those who want your letters read out, please write to southcentral@thenewsminute.com. It'd be very convenient for me if you write I don't want this read out, I want this read out. People do say that. Suresh says, this is about the Punjab 95 discussion that we had. Pooja was not there in that. He says, I was intrigued by the choice of the topic, but by the time I saw it, I was convinced that yes, mere geographical divide should not have kept out this topic. So basically, because this is a Bollywood movie, it's about Punjab, I said, normally we discuss South India, but we are making a bit of an exception and discussing this movie. Suresh says, it is such uncommon heroes as Sri Jaswant Singh Khalra that make me feel India still has hope. Two things bothered me. There was a passing mention after the penultimate hearing in the Bombay High Court, the producers withdrew the case. I would like to know why Mr. Ronnie Screwvala, who is the producer of this movie, chickened out, putting business interests before justice for the film. If the producers are not interested, then how can the film see the light? I think that's a bit unfair because a producer like Ronnie Screwvala is fighting against a huge system and he has to continue making movies. He made a brave movie. The government, the CBFC is not allowing it to come. But I don't think they want to also make it political, which is why we stayed away deliberately from that whole thing. Secondly, why was there no coverage on AAP's stand on the whole issue? Does Chief Minister Bhagwat Mann think the film would create a law and order issue for the government? I don't think Hani Trehan told us anything about what the AAP thought. But political parties per se, including the government, have no say in what the CBFC decides. It's eventually CBFC itself. Okay, next letter is from Sri Kanta. He says, hello Anisha, this is for Anisha who did a story on how within 5 months Karnataka found that 304 drugs were not of standard quality. But she also very worryingly found that these drugs are not exactly recalled from pharmacies despite it not meeting standard quality. Shrikanta says, many thanks for a detailed story. The ramifications are serious. The question you asked in the end of your story is, why do these companies that have different manufacturing standards for medicines, why are they sold in India? It has a simple answer. Why do Indian cars fail crash safety test that a European car would pass? Why do Indian spices are rated grade 1 and these are not sold in domestic markets, not officially. Anyway, so basically he says that the standards are obviously not the same for Indian and foreign countries. But I want to just tell Shrikanta, there is an investigation which ProPublica has published, I think last week, where they talk about two of the biggest pharmaceuticals in India, including Sun Pharmaceuticals based in Maharashtra, that the FDA in the American food and drug, right? That they have basically been passing some of these medicines which are produced by Sun Pharmaceuticals to go into the market despite so many problems. So I was only dreading to think what is happening in India where the test itself is not done properly. Rajesh says, this is for you. Keep up the good work, Pooja. LME from the ground is really an excellent alternative. Are you going to do more?
More, but not all the time. It's very exhausting, very time consuming.
Once
but
a month? Once in 2 months?
I think once a month is a good aim to have.
So he has said, do more of the same. I have contributed rupees 500 to express my gratitude. It's less than the recommended levels. However, that's what I can afford. No, there's no recommended level. I mean, it is your hard-earned money which you are giving to an organization for them to carry on some work, right? So we value that money, whether it's 500, 5,000, 5 lakh, whatever you give. The only thing which I keep telling people who can afford it is that do take a membership. It's one coffee or one trip to the theatre that you have to sacrifice a month. For all the others who just write emails to us or reach out to us in every way, we value all the support. Monetary, non-monetary, whatever it is.
Well, I want to personally thank him. 500 rupees means a lot. The fact that you took the effort to contribute means a lot to us. So thank you on that. But do also write to me on what you think I can go on the ground and cover for LME.
Yes. So that's all this week on South Central. Thank you, Shivasundar. So I always forget recommendations. Your recommendation for the week?
Yeah, there is one book, Ambedkar's Preamble, The Secret History of Constitution of India by Rakesh Singh Rathore. I think that you must read, and let them read State and Minorities by Ambedkar himself, and particularly his last speech in the Constitution.
Right. Leena.
Hello. So I have 3 recommendations. One is what I earlier spoke about, the Annihilation of Caste by B.R. Ambedkar. There is an annotated version of it by Arundhati Roy's annotated version published by Navayana, which is called Doctor and the Saint, one of my favorite books. Second is a podcast. I think this is my first podcast recommendation, but I think in line with this discussion that we have had here, there's the 1973 Keshavanda Bharati case, which is one of the most important case in Indian constitution that talked about the basic structure of the constitution and which held that secularism is a part of the constitution's basic structure. And this came before Indira Gandhi inserted the word secularism into the preamble of the constitution. There's the Friend of the Court season 2 that is a very interesting award-winning podcast that talks about this case and what happened in it. So that's my second recommendation. And third is a book in Malayalam by Subhash Chandra. I think there is also an English translation of that is available. It is written on Satyagraha and Mahatma Gandhi's struggle for independence at that time. It's called Jnana Snanam. I don't know what the English translation is called. I'll look up and put it in the links if I find it.
If you're looking for absolute delightful pleasure, I would recommend the last book by Clive James called The Latest Readings, where he has short essays on a variety of literary figures and books. It's absolutely great. I mean, it was a chance find for me and I couldn't stop reading it. It was a book that he wrote when he was dying from cancer, but you will not detect a trace of that anxiety in that book. It's just a sheer, taking delight in the pleasure of reading and thinking creatively about the book you have in front. Yeah, it's not available in India. You'll have to, I don't know how, maybe LiveGen, maybe some online sources has them. I don't know. Yeah, that's a book that excited me most in recent days.
Okay, my recommendation is the series called Kabul. The reason I'm recommending this, it's a French direction, not an American one. And you can see for yourself how much of a difference it makes. It's about the circumstances in which, the US, France, NATO, all of them left from Afghanistan, what it did to people, their women in particular, but all those who had supported, bringing down of Taliban. And how difficult it was for diplomats also to kind of come to terms with what the governments had decided. It's a very difficult watch, but I think given the kind of wars we are seeing breaking out, I think you should watch it.
So I'm going to keep it very short. One is this Christopher Jafferley book called The Sangh Parivar. There is one particular chapter where he lists all the different organizations which the Sangh directly or indirectly controls. Just read that much, you will know how it's like an octopus tentacles. That is good enough. The other thing is Amit Verma's podcast, which with Tripudharman Singh. I don't think it's recent. It was around 2-3 years ago. It's on this book he wrote called 16 Stormy Days on the First Amendment. You should also read the book 16 Stormy Days by Tripudharman Singh. So these are my recommendations. Okay, so we come to an end of South Central. Remember that we are going to have an editorial meeting in the last week of July. And do become a subscriber. Come to that meeting. Thank you very much to producer Bhuvan Malik, production assistant Ajay. Thank you to our editor Jasim Ali and Vignesh Manikam. Thank you to Sukanya Shaji, who is listening into this conversation. Of course, also sending me text saying, why are you not saying this, why are you not saying that? And thank you to Yana, who is in charge of all our social media. Thank you to everyone listening in.